I want to show you how I painted Pastor Jeff. I painted him digitally, and there's the painting. I did it on an iPad. This is the iPad. And I used a Apple Pencil. I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. I'm not going to show you the full length, but I'll show you a time-lapse version of it, and I'll narrate it so you know what's going on. Here we go. All right, so this is the iPad. Here I'm selecting the brush I'm going to use to start with. I'm going to use the soft pastel to sketch with, and then later on I'll go to the brushes that I actually use to paint with. So I did the beginning of this holding the camera in one hand and the stylus in the other, just so I could demonstrate how I do this. So I am choosing a complementary color, which is the turquoise. It's complementary to the skin tones on Jeff's face, etc. I'll adjust that later. I wasn't completely happy with that decision. This is where I changed the size of the brush stroke, or the pastel stroke in this case. And again, I apologize, I should say. I apologize for the camera going all over the screen. I was trying to, like I say, draw and hold the camera in the beginning part. So the first thing I do is, well, first of all, I had a photograph of Jeff that I was using as a reference photo. I'll show you that right here, there, somewhere up there. And I just rough it in, you know, a rough idea of the shape of his face. And the one thing about faces is that there's a lot of commonality among us humans. We pretty much all have our eyes in the center right there. And so I put a line across so I would remember where they are, and I wouldn't get them like lopsided from one another. And then the bottom of his nose is the second line, and then the middle of his mouth is the third line. And he was wearing a robe. He's a pastor, obviously. And so he was wearing his robe when I took the photo of him. I wanted to get the robe into the picture. Pastor Jeff is I think he's the third or fourth pastor that I've painted a picture of. And it's always that scarf thing, whatever that thing is called that hangs around there. That's always like it's almost as complex as the face itself. But anyway, so I gave it a rough sketch. You'll see, that's right. I marked the middle of his face, so I'd make sure I got the nose in the right spot. And just some rough sketch lines so that I would know where the robe was and where those things are, that thing that hangs around his neck. Just so I would know. Just rough. Everything's rough. Everything's fixable. In traditional art, you do the exact same thing. All right, now that looks kind of spooky. So this is a close-up of me laying down some of the other rough strokes on his face. It kind of looks like a monster right there, but it's not. You can see the dark spots that will become the inset of the eyes, and the light spot that becomes the nose. The eyes go in, the nose comes out, and so dark and light. So it's kind of a rule, I guess. And then I scrubbed in. I obviously didn't paint that fast, but I put in some rough color just to give myself an idea of the contrast. So here's a close-up of putting the eyes in place. I'm drawing / painting the eyes. It is painting, even though it looks like it's drawing because you're holding a pencil. Whatever you call it, it is digital art, and I love digital art. It's such a wonderful medium. It enables the artist to accomplish the exact same thing he or she would accomplish on a canvas, but quicker. And one of the reasons it's quicker is because when you make a mistake, you can undo it. When you make a mistake, you can, or to prepare for a mistake, you could paint a different layer. Different layer, and then if you make a mistake, you just get rid of the whole layer. So and you can see a mistake right there. I just accidentally put a line there that shouldn't be there on his cheek. So this is just me. Just this part of the process is thinking. You have to think. What does it look like? Does it look like it's darker here or lighter there? Because it's a very subtle tone change between one part of the cheek and the other part of the cheek. It's very subtle. The light is hitting different places, and I'll show you how I accomplish some of that stuff in an artificial way when we get toward the end. So here I'm just the eyeglasses are a very defined thing. They're human. They're man-made. They have a specific straight line, curved line look to them. So you want to make sure you don't mess them up unless your name is Picasso. And then, of course, to give the illusion that the eyeglasses have actual glass in them, actual lenses, I just put a little bit of white on the edges. You can see it right there. It's all kind of sketchy. And at this point, I'm starting to see the likeness. Now, let's talk about that just for a second. The likeness of a portrait is the most important part. Everything else isn't as important as the likeness. If people can't tell who it is, you haven't done your job. I don't do portraits very much anymore. I used to do them a lot. And I used to do them just sitting like in a field somewhere, like if there was a fair or a fundraiser or something. Robin and I would go and set up a chair and basically sketch people, and the money would go to some kind of a charity or whatever. And I guess I got a lot of practice doing that, but it presented itself some problems. There was always a line, and there were always people disappointed that I didn't get to them, and it takes a lot of focus. A portrait, all portraits. This one took a lot of focus. So here you can see I'm scrubbing in, brushing in, broad brush strokes to put in the color of his robe, and also that thing he wears, scarf. Somebody tell me what it's called. Now you can see the darkness on the right side of his face on his shoulder. That's the shadow. I'm just preparing for light. I thought light would come from that side. In the actual photo, light's coming from behind him. So it wasn't exactly like that, but I wanted the light to be kind of dramatic coming from one side. So if you watch carefully here, this is the part where it might take a little bit of really cool, keen observation on your part, because all I'm really doing here is I am adding color to his face. Not one color. You're not painting a wall. You're looking at one little piece of the cheek, one little piece of the chin, one little piece of the nose, and does this color look exactly like that color, or is it slightly reddish? Is it slightly orange? Is it slightly blue? Believe it or not, there's a lot of blue in our skin, regardless of what race you are, by the way. And then, of course, the reflections. You can see there's a couple of reflections on Jeff's forehead and on his nose, and of course on his eyeglasses. And the likeness, the more I work with it, the more I use the brush and keep adding things to it, the more it starts to look like Jeff. So that's what I did. That little flash you saw right there, what that was, now this is a digital thing. I took the layer I already had. I should have shown you this somehow. And then what I did is I duplicated it. So now I have two layers of the exact same thing. And I put them on top of each other. And it gives a richer, more, that's the best word. It's a richer look. So here's the part where I am painting in the design I guess it's like a tapestry. Robert, what do you call that stuff that they paint into the robe, that thing? Is that tapestry? Tapestry. So that's me painting in the tapestry of the robe, or of that scarfy thing. Is it called the scarfy thing?
I don't know. I'll look it up.
No, you don't gotta look it up. I'm recording a video to explain how I did this.
Okay.
So anyway, you can see I'm not really worried about it looking perfect, because I know as a painting, sometimes paintings work better when you keep it impressionistic. All right, now this part takes some explaining, because I want to show you what I did here. This is where first of all, I copied one side of his robe and I pasted it over here. So really, I only did one of them, and then I duplicated it. Cheating, right? Now, you see it's all blue. The reason it's all blue in there, and you see a silhouette of him, because what I do is I duplicate him, his picture, and then I paint the whole thing solid color, the same color that I've been using as a background. And then I put the picture of him on top of the matted one color silhouette. And that prevents anything I do in the background from peeking through. So that's just my way of keeping the background behind him and not through him like a bad green screen. And then finally I used a multiply layer, and to create some shadows, I erased the parts that I wanted to have light. That's why you see all this lightning effect. And that's the finished picture that I did first. And then I altered the color a little bit for the final portrait of Pastor Jeff. And that's what it would look like if it was in a frame on a wall. All right, that's it. I hope it helps you understand how I do digital art on the Procreate app on an iPad. Thank you. Talk to you later.